Over a week ago, the new desktop environment for Linux, Cosmic, had its first stable release alongside Pop! OS 2404. It must have been in active development for a while, because Pop! OS 22.04 from 2022 was using modified GNOME, and 24.04 was held back for like 1.5 years for the desktop. It already was making rounds with alpha and beta releases, which I also got to check out, so let's take another look. Pop! OS is a Linux distribution based on Ubuntu and made by the computer manufacturer System76. It has its user interface and driver improvements. It is apparently a good choice for gaming. It previously used moderately modified GNOME with its extensions and some custom apps, which was also called Cosmic. But that didn't seem to quite cut it, and now Cosmic Desktop is a whole another desktop environment built from scratch in Rust. The alpha testing period dragged on and on until the release day arrived and hit me so suddenly. Looking back at it now, the release date was announced back at the end of October. Guess it didn't really reach me. You don't even have to switch to Pop! OS for Cosmic, as there are editions of Fedora and OpenSUSE with it, and you can install it on Arch, by the way. Alright, starting up Pop! OS 2404. Taking a quick look at it, the layout is really similar to that of GNOME, or at least to what Pop! OS looked like previously, with the dock on the bottom and menu buttons, the clock and system tray laid out on the top like that. Launcher is accessible from the dock, and it's like KRunner or Spotlight, where you can search for stuff on the device. Then there is the workspace switcher and application menu. Workspaces are dynamic, meaning they are added and removed as you use and free them up. Application Launcher simply places a pop-up on the screen with the programs put into folders. You can drag programs to other folders and create, remove, and rename folders. Items seem to be sorted alphabetically. It isn't a particularly exciting app launcher emo, and it does things a little differently than, say, the category-based app menu of KDE and Cinnamon, or the full-screen launcher of GNOME, but I guess it works. However, there aren't many animations, with mostly the dock resizing being a little chunky. On the installer, there are the usual stuff of a user-friendly installer: language, where to install, username and password. Disk encryption is a whole another thing to toggle, and it is on by default. Then it should start installing and then be ready in a bit. Here is a login screen. It's okay. First time setup after installing. You get to go over localization again. Then something I didn't know about until Cosmic was actually released. You get to choose from pre-configured color schemes and layouts, also offering a more Windows-like layout with a panel on the bottom. It seems like this is a one-time setup, and if you lock in your choices here and want to change them later, you're gonna have to replicate them yourself. The apps have a nice, modern and really unified look. That's nice. The accent color seems plenty of use. It also highlights the active window with a border around it, which some might call eye straining, but I find it interesting. Concerning the menu bar, traditional desktops, along with default KDE for example, have it separately. GNOME has replaced it with separate buttons and hamburger menus. Cosmic apps, meanwhile, went ahead and just put it in what would be the top bar. When a window is maximized, it seemingly merges together with the panels, also helping with a unified look. Non-Cosmic apps, such as Firefox and LibreOffice, also use a color scheme and styling so that they don't look out of place. Well, maybe not always 100%, but okay. Minimized apps by default have a thumbnail of them on the dock. One thing I did notice is that some apps have larger rounded corners than others. Cosmic as a desktop environment has some of its own software, like File Manager, Text Editor, Terminal, and Software Manager. Editors and viewers often have the capability to have multiple tabs open. There might not be a vast number of options for configuration, but I guess the apps do their job. There is a full screen screenshot utility, but it doesn't use screen recordings as of now. I remember something about having some confusion with Software Manager 2 years ago, but now when I take a look at it, it's all there. You have the recommendations and lots of categories to check out. It just appears some entries are missing an icon. I'm not sure how many people will use Spotify and an image viewer for creation, but okay. It is displayed whether it is a Flatpak or system install, and you can switch between them if available. You can see install software and update them from the manager. Maybe just that I don't see an option to cancel an install. Overall, it's pretty solid. Some software is also borrowed from GNOME. Let's take a look at system settings. Fractional scaling is supported with an additional option for fine-tuning. No HDR currently, it seems. Power saving mode works fine, but it instantly minimizes all lighting. Hopefully now I can choose input devices, as in the microphone that's in use. When it comes to customization, there's plenty to configure. First off, of course, dark mode and accent color. Well, on GNOME or KDE, I'd be fine with either light or dark mode, but on Cosmic, I currently don't really see myself using the light mode. Might be because of the dark mode being the default, a lot of Cosmic showcase being with the dark mode, and it just looking better. You can also freely change the color of individual elements of windows, so I can probably go ahead and make something hideous. Then there are options for element rounding, spacing, or how much padding there is between them, and some window management. Speaking of, a selling point of Pop! OS is the ability to instantly switch between the floating and tiling window management, accommodating enthusiasts from both sides. There are ways to remove the color for the window hint. In Cosmic there are two panels, the panel and the dock. Both have an identical set of options with the exception that the dock can be turned off. Pretty expected stuff here. You can change the position, set it to hide when covered, and make it floating. The dock can be placed on top of the panel like that. This is how the theme with the panels overlapping wouldn't happen. Maybe also change the size and add some transparency. Individual widgets on the panels can be changed too. I'm gonna take out the minimized thumbnails. Last thing, you can change how workspaces are managed in the multi-monitor setups. I'm going to turn on natural touchpad scrolling, that's how I'm used to. 2-finger swipe is to scroll the content as always, 4-finger swipe is then to switch workspaces, which leaves me to wonder, what is 3-finger swipe used for? Why not use that? Anyway, I find the configuration really intuitive. You can just pop into system settings and change container color or something. I have checked out Cosmic on camera earlier this year when it was in late alpha. Let's just say there have been bugs during testing. What I ran into back then includes the clock using an odd format which didn't line up to what was set in the settings, drop-down lists that didn't work, Windows going halfway off screen just because, the media player not working at all, and me breaking apt the package manager itself. Now on the live image, I could see that there were faults fixed, but I still ran a few times into a situation where the applications menu would not open for a while. The media player now notified of libraries that needed to be installed first, which is some valuable feedback for once. But even so, I couldn't get to show any videos, until it suddenly started working sometime later for some reason. The desktop feels polished, but still mind a few bugs here and there. Cosmic Desktop really is a Cosmic Desktop, and it goes right up there along with KDE Plasma and GNOME as desktops I would actually use daily. It has a nice modern look that's consistent across software. Personalization options are just enough so you can make the interface your own while still feeling polished. Will I switch to Cosmic from KDE? It certainly is a choice I have, but I guess I'll give myself some thinking time while Pop! OS and Cosmic still mature a bit. I know that there are people who use Cosmic since later alpha builds with little to complain about. So I'll end here, thanks for watching. I am Median Lane. If you enjoyed, you can perhaps like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.